Welcome back to Enka and welcome back to another movie review. Today we have a 2 for 2, a buy one get two free.
What?
Buy one get one free.
There, that's where I like it.
And we're reviewing the one and only Barbenheimer.
Woot, woot.
These two movies that have been such a boom in the past couple of weeks, and we had the opportunity to watch them not back to back, but back to back days in opening weekend. Of course, we're talking about Barbie and Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer, for some reason, if you don't know. But I'm really excited to be here. How about you?
I am excited. I am shocked again that these two movies have been paired together.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was coincidence, by chance, if the makers of the films were like, let's just run with it. If it started on TikTok, I got no clue where this came from, but I'm happy, and it brought us to these two amazing movies.
I mean, for what I've seen, it's happened in the past. Obviously, not with so much pizzazz. I think TikTok definitely heightened the experience for everyone.
Yeah.
But in the past, I can name, for example, I was seeing Halo, the Halo video game, and the latest the Switch game that I really like playing
The sports
with
one?
Tom Nook. Oh my goodness.
Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing.
Oh.
Halo and Animal Crossing were released, I think it was the same day, and people also like had these comments about these two movies being released together. And so it has happened in the past, but obviously TikTok definitely changed this experience for everyone.
Right, definitely.
And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with one movie, then move into the other one, and then I compare them a little bit. And if we happen to compare them throughout, just what happens. But yeah, let's get into this. Want to start with Barbie?
Yep. We'll start with the Barbie movie. I think we liked this one quite a bit, if I remember correctly.
If you're
I was a little on the fence about it when we first watched it, but you liked it quite a bit, actually.
I really enjoyed the experience. I think it's definitely a movie that everyone should watch. A really beautiful message. We had the opportunity to watch this one first and then Oppenheimer the following day. And for what it's worth, I think, I mean, it's not your typical beautifully looking movie that is like, wow, the cinematography. But it's a really fun watch. I really enjoyed it. And then it just came up with a beautiful message out of nowhere. I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy it did have that. So in that aspect, I really enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. I was going into this right off the bat with like the trailer. I had assumed that like Mattel would be the bad guys.
Yeah, same.
That Mattel would go into like this whole plot trying to chase down Barbie as she's in the real world trying to save the world. I had no inkling whatsoever that it was going to be a completely different plot, and that the plot could even be real world related. I think that's why I didn't like the movie when I first watched it, because as I've said to actually many people, I expected it to be happy, silly, fun time, and it was just heart-wrenching.
It happened to
serious.
be a lot to take in for sure.
It was a lot, and so I just left feeling the first time I watched it, because the message was just like not what I was expecting.
And a lot of people were like, watch Oppenheimer first so you can get all the sadness out, and then watch Barbie so you can leave the movie theater all happy. But that was just not the case.
Not at all. Like, I was on the verge of crying multiple times.
I must say, I did get watery eyes.
Yeah. It took a second watch for me to actually appreciate it, because then I could actually pick up on all the rest of it and enjoy the experience instead of being mortified at how real issue we're getting here on the plot.
I must say, I mean, Barbie just had such a good marketing team and such a long run with marketing that we were expecting. Thank you so much, Earthling. I mean, it's broad daylight, so what can we expect? But it just has such a good run prior that we were expecting this movie for months and just really looking forward to day off to watch it. So we just had all of these expectations in our head.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I think it was short a little bit from expectations. Once again, a really good movie, but it did fall a little bit short of what everyone expected for what I've seen online, because obviously we just had this image in our head that it was gonna be the movie of the century,
Yeah.
and if you take a second to think about it, it wasn't.
Hmm. I think this movie, it was heavier than
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people expected. And a lot of people are listening currently to the Billie Eilish song that
Yeah.
was included with it, and they're like really like resonating with it. So I think this is becoming a very important movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's like the movie of the summer. I
Yeah.
just think in general this is an incredibly important movie
It has
that
a really
people
important
need to
message.
see. Yeah, it's more of the message you need to
Mm-hmm.
see. I wouldn't say that it was like the most amazing movie
Yeah.
that I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, I could watch it again
Mm-hmm.
a million times, because of how much. Wow, that's a loud car. Oh, it's a motorcycle, actually.
Get it right.
Uh. But I could watch it a million times
Mhm.
because it was so much fun, and there's just so much to take away from it. And I'm sure that one watch, you're not gonna be able to catch everything.
Yeah,
But I think
definitely.
something that this movie really benefited from is the fact that they did not need to take themselves too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at the special effects, like the CGI and whatnot, when they're going from world to world, it's
Mm-hmm.
not like they're trying to actually look like they're going through snow or like they're actually going on a rocket ship. They're not
Yeah.
trying to make this a Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little silly moment in which they're moving from world to world and they don't need to take themselves too seriously. And I think that definitely really helped them out a lot.
Well, yeah, when you have such a deep message and whatnot, you kind of need to balance it out.
Mhm.
And I did think that they balanced it out like as best as they could.
Yeah.
Definitely. It just made officially $1 billion
Yeah.
in the box office.
And for what I've heard, it's the highest grossing movie directed by a female.
Yep, directed by Greta Gerwig, distributed by Warner Bros. It, I wonder how Oscar season would treat this movie, because I feel like this could easily be up there, but at the same time, I don't know if they would think it would be too silly. I don't see a lot of silly movies up on the Oscar stage, but I feel
Yeah,
like that it
it's
could be
definitely not an
nominated for
Oscar grab.
something.
It's not
Mhm.
one of those movies that you're like, oh yeah, the Oscars were definitely like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't
Margot
know.
Robbie did fantastic though as Barbie.
Yeah, she did.
And Ryan Gosling as Ken.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best experience with that.
It's a bit complicated to process for sure because
Mhm.
if you think Margot Robbie did do great, but I don't think she is the greatest protagonist from a movie this year.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling is up there for the best supporting actor. It's just
Definitely.
really complicated when he's going for best supporting actor with people like Robert Downey Jr. from Oppenheimer.
Which we know will be up there.
And it was amazing.
Oscars.
So, I mean, it's just really complicated because if
Mhm.
I always want to compare it to Marvel because it's really similar in the aspect of like it's not an original character. It's a character that came from say a comic or a board game or dolls and whatnot.
Already established.
Already established
persona.
fan base, so you know it's gonna do good.
Mhm.
So the numbers that you see might not reflect how good it was. It just reflects the big fan base that it already has.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if they're gonna be looking at numbers or the message behind it or purely because the Oscar is usually like, oh, this movie has such a good message, so let's put it up there. They always look at the technical stuff behind it, which it had a really high technical value for sure. But when you compare it to other movies, with cinematography and whatnot, it wasn't necessarily crazy good. You know, it was pretty good.
It's not like the war movies that are constantly being
Yeah, like the
nominated and
one
winning.
shot for 20 minutes that would just follow
Exactly.
them, and it was so creative. It wasn't anything like that, and it didn't need to be. It's not
Yeah.
a bad thing not to have the greatest cinematography in the world. It's definitely not a bad thing not to have that.
Although I do appreciate the amount of references there were to
Yeah.
other pre-existing media.
Mm-hmm.
That whole beginning sequence, based off of 2001 Space
Yeah,
Odyssey,
that was good.
was amazing. I think that alone should be like nominated. Like,
For
'cause, like,
what?
I don't know
Best
if there's
reference
like a
to 2001 Space
it's
Odyssey.
like a fan category. It was just like all those like little things
Mhm.
that's why I feel like they deserve something
I think the
for
issue is
that
not
work.
necessarily with the movie. The issue is with the Academy.
Yeah.
I'm just going based off what the Academy usually does, and I'm a strong supporter of the fact that the Academy should have genre awards.
Yeah.
Best horror, best comedy, best drama. This, I mean, I'm gonna call it a comedy, because I think it was,
A
it-
dramedy.
yeah, yeah, like more with the message and everything. It was still a comedy movie, and I will give it best comedy. I mean, we're going to watch Haunted Mansion tonight, but I'm not expecting I'm not expecting Haunted Mansion to be better than Barbie as a
At all.
comedy by
No,
any
not
chance.
at all.
So thank you. The Academy just needs to change the way it does things.
Yeah. Don't you love living right by Logan Airport? Isn't that
It's
so
funny because
fun?
if you listen to our whatchamacallit, senior thesis episode, I was speaking on how difficult it was because I recorded nearby the airport as well. So we just had to stand by for airplanes all the time.
Feeling that all over again.
Yeah. Do you want to get into some reviews?
Yeah. So, first one is from Roger Ebert. They gave 3.5 stars. It says here, Barbie director and co-writer Greta Gerwig's Summer Splash is a dazzling achievement both technically and in tone. It's a visual feast that succeeds as both a gleeful escape and a battle cry. So crammed with impeccable attention to detail is Barbie that you couldn't possibly catch it in all in a single setting. You'd have to develop an entire viewing just to the accessories, for example. Barbie can be hysterically funny with giant laugh-out-loud moments generously scattered throughout. They come from the insularity of an idyllic, pink-hued realm and the physical comedy of fish-out-of-water moments and choice pop culture references as the outside world increasingly enroaches. But because the marketing campaign has been so clever and so ubiquitous, you may discover that you've already seen a fair amount of the movie's inspired moments, such as the 2001 A Space Odyssey homage and Ken's self-pitying 80s power ballad, such as the Anticipation Industrial Complex. But while Barbie is wildly ambitious in an exciting way, it's also frustratingly uneven at times. After coming on strong with wave after wave of zippy hilarity, the film drags in the middle as it presents its more serious themes. It's impossible not to admire how Gerwig is taking a big swing with Heading Oceans during the mindless blockbuster season. But she offers so many that the movie sometimes stops in its propulsive tracks to explain itself to us, and then explain those points again and again. The breezy satirical edge she established off the top was actually a more effective method at conveying her ideas about the perils of toxic masculinity and entitlement and the power of female confidence and collaboration.
Okay. It's interesting the review itself and the words that they're using in comparison to the score that they gave it.
Yeah.
Based on the score, I will imagine them being more like it was mid, but they really like the movie. And
Yeah.
I feel like they have the same sentiment that many people had in the sense of like it was really good, but like okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know?
I understand that.
It's just a really interesting feeling that I'm sure many of our listeners had when watching this movie.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think it means that it affected you.
Yeah, definitely.
If it didn't affect you, you would think that it was like a bad movie or that, oh, like the message was like okay or whatever. I think it's good that we kind of feel that gut-wrenching.
I'm really happy
of
for everyone
this.
that worked in it, and I'm really happy. I mean, my TikTok, I'm on the Barbie side of TikTok. I'm not an Oppenheimer whatsoever. Any Oppenheimer videos that I've seen on TikTok is because you sent them to me.
Yes.
But I'm getting all of the interviews with Ryan Gosling, all of the interviews with Margot Robbie, and I'm just really happy and excited for them and what the future has for them. But I'm still processing it.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to see a Barbie 2 or maybe expanded universe, because I mean it just feels like I didn't see enough from the
Okay.
world itself.
Yeah.
I definitely saw the issues,
Mhm.
but I want to see more of their story, because the finale, while beautiful, you gotta remember that that was the beautiful part of this movie was not the very end. The
Yeah.
very end was her going in the real world to the gynecologist. I want to see more,
Yeah.
like what's happened, you know?
I think that probably has a lot to do with the fact that there's not exactly
Anything
a
to
full
show?
on happy ending.
Yeah.
I feel like, because it's not like they go in and say like, oh, like Barbies win over the Kens and patriarchy is gone
Yeah.
and whatnot. Like they don't do that. It's more of a realistic approach
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, okay, small bits of society have been changed and some
Mhm.
mindsets have been changed, but overall it's still roughly the spot that we were in, just maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
equal.
I don't know how I feel about the narration.
The
The narration just
color.
makes it feel like a 90s movie, when at the end it's like they show you the characters and with a photo of them, and the narrator
Yeah.
just comes and says, this character is now doing this,
Yeah.
and they're hoping for blank and blank. It just felt a little tacky in that sense. So I don't really love that. I would have liked to see just the ending as
Yeah.
it was without the narration. I don't really needed it.
So our next one, last review for Barbie, is from America Magazine. They didn't give it like a star rating,
Okay.
but they really enjoyed the movie. It says, at its core, the Barbie movie is a much-needed tribute to womanhood. This is evident in one of the most subtle but moving scenes from the film, which occurs early in Barbie's trip to the real world, when she sits at a bus stop crying because nothing seems to be going her way. She looks over and sees an old woman, played by the famous costume designer Anne Roth.
Oh, no way.
Aging doesn't exist in Barbie Land. Barbie smiles at her and says, "You're beautiful." The woman smiles serenely and replies simply, "I know." In retrospect, this deeply humane and moving encounter prefaces Barbie's decision to join the real world. It seems as if Barbie is recognizing the magnitude of everything a real woman is, and everything she later chooses to be. The female characters Barbie meets in the real world show her that women manage to exist in a world that is so often against them, and do so best when working together. This movie is for everyone to see and enjoy, but ultimately Barbie is truly a film by women, about women, for women. It is a film we certainly will be seeing again.
I got the goosebumps. I really like,
You like
that scene.
Yeah.
That scene was really nice, and I definitely enjoyed it. It definitely set up the movie for what was about to come. And for some reason, it just made me remember the now iconic scene of the narrator saying, "Note to the filmmakers, if you want to make this point come across, Margot Robbie is not the right cast person for this."
I did like that one a lot.
Because Margot
yeah.
was like, "I'm so ugly," and then there she was, just being Margot.
Drop dead gorgeous.
And we'll leave it at that for the time being, unless you have anything final comments before we get into Oppenheimer.
Should we rate it or rate it at the end?
We'll rate it together at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I guess we'll do a 180 into darker history topics with
Actual
Oppenheimer.
stories that happen in real life.
Although Barbie definitely can be, an argument can be made that it did happen in real life in a sense.
That's true. We don't know if Barbie Land is a thing. We should try
And
going roller
patriarchy
coasting.
is unfortunately
Roller
a
coasting.
villain in our real life.
Yes.
So, you know.
Well, Oppenheimer. What a movie. We watched this the second night of our 2-night extravaganza. This movie was amazing.
No joke about the 3 hours, but I didn't mind it.
I really didn't mind the 3 hours. I've watched longer and worse. The latest movie that I watched that was this long was Babylon.
Yeah.
And that's just one of my favorite movies at the time. I think what filmmakers are trying to do nowadays is that going to the theater to watch an hour and a half movie is not enough anymore, because we have Netflix and we have shows that we can just watch forever in our TV at home. What will we get out of our house? We have streaming. So watching movies is not anymore for just the sake of watching movies. It has to be an experience. And if you go to the movie theater, it better be worth it. Right. I'm not going to the movie theater just because I have to watch the movie, because I can just watch it at home. It has to be an experience. So that's why we have IMAX. 3D now is so much cheaper, and then IMAX is just everywhere now. And I think it's all because they're trying to chip into this experience of longer movies that are actually gonna make it worth it going to movie theaters.
Yeah.
So definitely the 3 hours did not take me away from the movie, and it actually made me realize more that there's a lot of world that needs to be developed. And if it was a 1 hour and a half movie, we definitely wouldn't have seen all of that.
Definitely not, though. So, yeah, the Oppenheimer movie was directed by Christopher Nolan, distributed by Universal. There were so many people in this movie.
There are, and so many iconic people,
I know.
actually.
We have Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, Florence Pugh
I know
as
many people watched Oppenheimer just because he was in the
Florence
movie.
Pugh. Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Rami Malek, Jack Quaid, Matt Damon, Josh Peck. Josh Peck was in this movie.
When I saw him, I was like, wait a second. Isn't he just David Dobrik's friend now?
Oh, I was like just shocked. I was over the moon at seeing him. There was also Gary Oldman, which I did not expect at all.
Which one is the guy from Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Because he was there.
Oh, let me
I know there was one actor
him.
that is the guy that played all of the live action Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And his whole filmography is just like 5 Diary of the Wimpy Kid movies, and then Oppenheimer. It's like the range of this actor is crazy.
The range. Did you just say the range? Was he one of the?
I think he was one of the random scientists. Yeah. I mean, Oppenheimer, as I was saying, is a movie that it was such a good movie. The cinematography from the beginning, like the first hour, I knew that there was 2 more hours to go, and I was still like, I want to come watch this again. I haven't, but I will definitely do it. Such a good movie. It's sad for me to watch movies that are based on real life, or like they literally retell everything that happened in real life, because you know the ending.
Yeah.
There is nothing to look forward to with unexpected happenings or anything like that, but it still managed to keep me captivated with the movie.
Yeah.
And I have seen a couple interviews, maybe 1 or 2, in which they were mentioning the different aspects that the filmmakers wanted to come across. One of them being that what is the name of the actor that played the sergeant?
Matt Damon.
Yeah. Matt Damon was commenting on how the director said all of this, like this entire movie, is on Gillian's back. This is his movie, and everyone else here is here to support that vision.
Yeah.
So whatever he does, you're here to support him. And what do we do in order to make that actually happen?
Yeah.
And Matt Damon was mentioning that was a really straightforward order and straightforward thing to follow. And I think that's what made the movie be what it is. And he was also commenting on how in the script it wasn't like and then Oppenheimer goes through the door and looks at the window. No, it literally says in the script, I go through the door and look at the window.
Yeah.
Because we're watching it through Oppenheimer's eyes. Because we don't want to be a third party in this. We really want to feel what he was feeling in there, and I think it really shows in all of the different scenes, like the one with the chair.
Yeah.
With the woman on top of him.
Yeah. It was a very interesting movie. I don't remember many movies in which there was multiple conversations happening, but I was able to follow it.
Yeah.
Because
it's such complicated conversations.
We're seeing Oppenheimer getting interrogated. Then we're seeing Robert Downey Jr. talking to what seems to be like a lawyer or like a press PR guy. And they're talking about different things, roughly.
Because there was Gillian in the future, Gillian in the past.
Are you saying Gillian or Killian?
Killian. Okay. I did say Gillian,
okay,
but I meant
knew
Killian.
I heard it. Killian. Continue.
Killian in the future, Killian in the past, and then Robert Downey Jr. is somewhere in the middle, but like, black and white.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole black and white section.
I do have to say, for the first 30 minutes, it was a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah.
And I know the filmmakers tried really hard to make it straightforward.
That play was even louder. Okay,
I can promise you right now that when I edit this podcast, it's not going to be as loud as it is in my headphones right now.
So we're just going to look like we're crazy. Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I know the filmmakers really tried hard to make it as straightforward as possible. That's why it didn't take that long for me to acclimate to what was happening.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, I was like, "Wait, when is this? Like, what happens first?" And because it was black and white, I imagine it was the first thing that happened. But no, it was like right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought too, it's interesting how this movie is not necessarily about the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
You would think, right, that the whole movie would kind of surround that.
And with the atomic bomb.
But it really doesn't. It's a big deal. It affects a lot, but it's not the end.
Like, his life became more important because it was about the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
But that's not where it ended, and that's not where the movie ended, and that's not the goal. We just followed his life, and the atomic bomb happened to be part of his life.
Yeah.
The biggest part, but part of it.
I like how it was addressed in the sense where it didn't necessarily paint Oppenheimer as like black and white, good or bad.
Yeah.
It really lets you see inside of his mind and make whatever judgments that you want. I did not come away with this thinking that, like, wow,
that he was
a great person and he's the most amazing person that's ever existed. I think he did something that has a lot of consequences, and you can have your own opinions on if it was the right thing to do.
I've seen a lot of memes in which is like Oppenheimer, when he sees that the atomic bomb he built was used to be an atomic bomb, and it's just a meme of like, oh my goodness, I'm so sad.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely agree with you. I think he was a guy, at least in this movie, because I don't know the story from the books, but he was just a guy that was fighting with his demons. After doing what he did and realizing the magnitude of what this had accomplished. And it's really interesting to have that, like, I mean, obviously there is biases in the film, and you get to see whatever the filmmakers wanted you to see. But I think what they showed us is pretty open-ended, and you can make your own assumptions from it. The cinematographer, who was the cinematographer? Because, oh my goodness.
Give me a sec.
See, we're all prepared in here. I knew I was going to ask this question.
Shush. You could have told me that you were going to ask it, and then I would have found it.
I just wanted to put you on the spot.
I don't appreciate this.
I really appreciate it. Because I think this movie has a significant claim to cinematography. I know I should be going to the theater more than I am currently, but I haven't seen anything that goes to this depth.
Cinematographer was Hoyt van Hoytema.
Anything else that he might be known for?
Let me see.
I'll give you time while the airplane goes over.
Oh, did the cinematography for Nope, Dunkirk, Tenet, Interstellar, Ad Astra, anything else you know? Her, Spectre, that other James Bond movie.
All great movies with great cinematography. Yeah, I think this movie definitely has a big claim on cinematography.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to get into some reviews?
Yeah. So I know that this movie is based off of the book American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. It was made in or published in 2005. I didn't see anything on if it was the most historically accurate book ever. This review actually does talk about that, so I'll start reading it. This is from artstechnica.com or arstechnica.com. With Oppenheimer, Nolan has gifted us a truly unique, unflinching, nuanced portrait of the enigmatic, complicated man who spearheaded the Manhattan Project and subsequently ran afoul of the red-baiting politics of the McCarthy era. Technically, it's a biopic. It doesn't play like one. It's more like Nolan carefully selected various threads running through Oppenheimer's life and wove them into a richly textured tapestry that somehow transcends those raw materials. The result is pure visual poetry. That said, this is not a documentary, and naturally a few liberties were taken, most notably the powerful final conversation between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein, referencing a conversation they'd had in the past, is entirely fictional. Nor is the actual physics front and center, since thematically, Nolan is far more interested in exploring questions of power, politics, patriotism, and personal internal paradoxes. those less familiar with this period in history might not pick up on all the ornamental details, but that shouldn't hamper their enjoyment of the film. One of R's senior technical editor, Lee Hutchison, had quibbles with the sound quality, however, citing mumbling background noises, obscuring the dialogue, and putting VFX behind dialogue so the sound overpowered everything else. That wasn't the case at the screening I attended, or at least I didn't notice. Still, forewarned is forearmed, and there was also criticism about the sound mixing in Nolan's 2022 film Tenet. Audiophiles, take note.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One thing that makes me really, really sad is the Einstein conversation.
Yep.
What?
Are you surprised?
I am not. It looked really weird in my head when I was watching it. I was like, that's too perfect. Like, that conversation is too iconic.
Yeah.
But now I'm really sad that it did not actually happen. Great cinematic moment.
Yeah. And it poses a fantastic question and ending to the movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was such a running thing through the movie in which he had that conversation with him.
Yeah.
And to know that it was fake. Oh. I mean, it's a movie. So, as all artistic works are, this is not a documentary by any means. But it's still sad.
Yeah. I did enjoy those moments where he was talking with Albert Einstein, but I think he's right when this reviewer is right when talking about more how it's more visual poetry.
Yeah, it definitely served the purpose of
definitely
showing us more like what Oppenheimer was seeing in his mind.
Yeah, especially with the visuals, even at the end of the physics and the rain and the things that keep making those mushroom cloud formations, because that I think helps show the power behind what they were doing too, and the deadly power behind it. Because we now as a society are decently far removed, where a lot of the people that were alive and experienced that are in their old age, and so a lot of younger people don't really know
the impact that it had at the time,
especially since those haven't been used since. There's not been an atomic dropping like that at all since. So I think that visualization really helped bring out the magnitude.
It's really complicated to quantify how important Oppenheimer was.
Yeah.
I know Matt Damon was also saying that this is a movie about the most important man that has ever existed. And if you think about it from we can end the world at any given time, then he is the most important man because he's the one that made it possible.
Yeah.
But then you can also look at it from the physics perspective, and I mean, I have no idea about anything about physics, but for what I know, what he made happen, obviously it wasn't by himself, but he was the leading guy on this. What he made happen with physics and atoms and whatever you want, it was something that no one else had ever tried or have succeeded at. And so from a physics perspective, it was a really important moment in history that we cannot forget. And if we were to manage to figure out what to do with this in some proactive kind of way, people will appreciate it more, like the law of gravity and whatever. But this is not good. This is not something that benefits the world currently, so people tend to diminish how crazy of an achievement it is.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one is from Roger Ebert as well. They gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
It goes on to say, this review hasn't delved into the plot of the film or the real-world history that inspired it, not because it isn't important, of course it is, but because, as is always the case with Nolan, the main attraction is not the story itself, but how the filmmaker tells it. Nolan has derided as less a dramatist and then half showman, half mathematician, making bombastic, overcomplicated, but ultimately muddled and simplistic blockbusters that are as much puzzles as stories. But whether that characterization was ever entirely true, and I'm increasingly convinced that it never was, it seems beside the point when you see how thoughtfully and rewardingly it's been applied to a biography of a real person. It seems possible that Oppenheimer could retrospectively seem like a turning point in the director's filmography when he takes all of the stylistic and technical practices that he'd been honing for the previous 20 years in intellectualized pulp blockbusters and turns them inward, using them to explore the innermost recesses of the mind and heart, not just to move human pieces around on a series of interlinked multi-dimensional storytelling boards. As a physical experience, Oppenheimer is something else entirely. It's hard to say exactly what, and that's what's so fascinating about it. I've already heard complaints that the movie is too long, that it could have ended with the first bomb detonating, and could have done without the bits about Oppenheimer's sex life and the enmity of Strauss, and that it's perversely self-defeating to devote so much of the running time, including most of the third hour, to a pair of governmental hearings. The one where Oppenheimer tries to get his security clearance renewed, and Strauss trying to get approved for Eisenhower's cabinet. But the film's furiously entropic tendencies complement the theoretical discussions of the hows and whys of the individual and collective personality. To greater and lesser degrees, all of the characters are appearing before a tribunal and being called to account for their contradictions, hypocrisies, and sins. The tribunal is out there in the dark. We've been given the information but not told what to decide, which is as it should be.
Really good. Really well reviewed. These two reviews by Roger, whatever it is,
Ebert,
with Barbie and Oppenheimer. Well done.
They know what they're doing over there.
They know what they're doing. And I definitely have to agree with them. I mean, we have to, as an audience, we have to get used to movies being 2 hours long from now on. If you want to see a good movie, it's most likely going to be 2 hours long. Like tonight's Haunted Mansion is 2 hours long, and you wouldn't expect that. And then when it goes to, like, for example, the sex life of Oppenheimer, I can really compare it to Hamilton and how he had his own issues with his personal life and romantic life. Yeah. And those are important aspects of that story because it really shows the other issues that these characters are dealing with, and they're not just one-sided people, and that they have personal problems as well. When you look at them in history books, you don't see all of these problems. You just see what they did in their specific industry. So Hamilton, Oppenheimer, they all have problems behind them, good or bad, whatever they did, but it's an issue that they bring into their work and what they accomplish.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's definitely an important part of the story.
It helps us understand the full psychology of a person when you see every bit of themselves. Like, again, like showing like his sins and his hypocrisies out on the table. You can actually make more of a decision on how you feel about him as a person. You can make your own separate opinions on what his work is about, what his work did. But a matter of fact is, he is painted as both a hero and a villain. It depends on what part of the world you're in. It also depends on what your family history is like. It depends on what your views on World War II were like. You're going to have all these like opinions. So I can appreciate it in that sense that they just sort of left him bare for us to examine, and not giving us any inkling on whether it should be leading one way or the other.
Another backseat aspect of his life that I didn't expect obviously I wasn't around at the time, but the fact that he was at one point part of the Communist Party, and that affecting his work every step of the time, is so crazy. Like, you wouldn't think that people that are doing so much work, I mean, right now we do it with Twitter. Like, you tweeted this thing 10 years ago, we found it, so now you have to pay for what you said. And obviously with politics and communism or whatever it is, it's high-end more than a tweet, but it's something that's still happening. But it's just interesting to see it develop so much in his life.
I think it was interesting making the people that worked on it also human beings. Especially the people that were on the opposing side, that opposing side being like the scientists in Europe. that were also like seemingly attempting to build the same bomb.
Yeah.
Because
By the way, the German scientist, he's a great actor that I really enjoy. He's actually German himself.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. But for me, I think that helped also add more to his why on why he's even doing this in the first place. Because everybody always brings up the morality of the situation. Like, is it moral to drop it? Is it moral to create it? That kind of thing. But I don't think people realized how, because of his own friendships with people, he knows what they're capable of, and he knows what that invention will do. So I think it actually helped me understand the why of why someone would agree to be a part of this project when I morally might have made a different decision or morally have shunned myself away from that, being even having to be a part of that decision.
Someone's psyche is just so deep that you need to look at everything to understand it.
Exactly, yeah. And so I liked that too about it, because you actually got to see the people that he met in his life and how...
Like the professor he tried to poison,
yeah. And other like people that he talked to when he was like living in Europe learning about physics. Like, so I think it was just really nicely laid out for me. Yeah. So I definitely took a lot away from it, for sure.
Beautiful, gorgeous looking movie, for sure.
Yeah.
Looking at the technical aspect, really gorgeous movie as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Shall we compare them a little bit before we finish?
A slight little bit, although I can't quite imagine what we would even compare them on. We've already discussed
I know,
Oscars.
It's just so interesting that they've just packaged these two movies because they happen to release on the same day.
Yeah.
Because they're so different from each other. But as we said before, Barbie's marketing team did a really good job marketing their movie.
Yep.
A bit misleading because they didn't really show you that there was such an impactful message behind.
But that was the correct thing to do.
That might have been the correct thing to do, but it's still a little bit misleading. It's not a bad thing. But Oppenheimer's marketing team was more like, there's Barbie movie coming out the same day? Great.
Let's just attach ourselves to this
they just
situation.
ran with it.
Yeah.
And I saw also a meme that was like, Barbie's marketing team, there's an oil spill, can they make it pink? Or we're gonna buy these houses and Airbnb and like Barbie and whatnot. Or like doctors are dressing up as Barbie. And then Oppenheimer is like, did you post the poster? Great, we're done.
Beautiful. Sign our check.
So from the marketing standpoint, I mean, I understand. You didn't mention how much Oppenheimer is made, but I think it's significantly less. I think last time I saw it was around the 300 million, but that's when Barbie was at 800 million. So it might be more around the 500 million now.
Oppenheimer is not for everybody.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, Barbie might be more for a wide range audience.
Yeah, Oppenheimer is not for anybody. Is not for everybody. Like, Whale Man, was that the name of the game?
What?
The one that got the Oscar last year for Best Actor.
The Whale.
The Whale, like that one, amazing movie. I haven't seen it, but I've heard amazing things from it.
I was just about to say, you never watched that.
But it's definitely not for everybody.
Right.
You know,
well,
so some of the. Can you stop?
I'm not trying to tip the table over. Okay?
Oh my goodness, she's just destroying the quote unquote set.
I am not impressed. Anyways.
But I think even if it's at a 500 million, I think it probably did really well for its own standards. And then obviously Barbie just blew it out of the park with over $1 billion now. And it's not stopping because it only released less than a month ago.
The 21st, yeah.
And
less than a month ago, it already made $1 billion.
Huh? Yeah.
Less than a month ago, it already made $1 billion. I hope that one day I work on a project that makes that much money.
Avatar. There's many Avatar movies coming up, so we can get on those.
We'll cross our fingers if we get there.
If you watch Barbie, then you know the hoodie that says "I'm Knuff." We bought that hoodie. It's getting here in September. If you want to see it, you can.
It's on pre-order
find
for
it on our Instagram when we
not
get
sponsored.
Yeah, I was watching how in Spanish they're saying soy suficient Ken,
Sufficient Ken.
which is not good enough as Kenough, but it's pretty decent.
It's the best that they can do for
It
the
is the
language
best that they can
barrier.
do. And we'll see how this movie is doing the Oscars. I think it will be worth it looking back at the movies that we reviewed this year when Oscar season comes around and
Yeah.
see how these two movies are portrayed in the Oscars as well. But I mean, as a two package, as a movie that you should watch back to back, you really don't have to. Like, I
Yeah.
know people online are saying Barbenheimer, and if you watch Barbie today, you should watch you should watch Oppenheimer tomorrow. You really don't have to.
Yeah.
I would definitely say try to watch both of them if you haven't. If you only watch both one of them, definitely try to watch the other one. But it's not gonna heighten the experience because you watch them back to back. If anything, it's gonna make it worse because you're gonna be too tired for the second one.
Yeah.
Or when you're watching the first one, you're just gonna be like, I left the second one, which is my favorite, to watch later on today, so I cannot think of the one that I'm watching right now. So it might become an issue. So maybe just, if you already watched them, maybe the second one that you watched, watch it again, give it another chance, and see how it pans out now. And Caitlin watched Barbie twice.
Yes.
And had a different opinion of it on the second time. So
Liked it a lot more on the second
Yeah.
run. I definitely would say watch Barbie over Oppenheimer because I think it's important in the sense that it can start conversations that could change people's mindsets for the current
yeah.
historical things that we're seeing happen in our country and in our world. And I think Oppenheimer is important to more understand the past and how that might affect the present.
I personally would say watch Oppenheimer over Barbie. If you really have to pick, I would say watch Oppenheimer over Barbie if you really have to pick. Just because cinematography wise and technically wise, it's a really well done movie, and the filmmakers definitely blew it out of the park with it.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing experience. So now we can move on and give them a rate.
Our final ratings.
So for Barbie, what are you gonna be, Barbie?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
A 4. Interesting.
Solid 4.
I was thinking of 3.9 out of 5.
Why are we not rounding it up?
We're not rounding it up because I'm gonna give Oppenheimer a 4.
Oh. Okay. Oppenheimer.
Be careful. Don't think too hard. It might explode.
4.5.
A 4.5. But you just said watch Barbie over Oppenheimer.
I mean it in the sense that I think the conversations that I've been seeing people talk about and how controversial it is, that's why people should go see Barbie more.
Okay.
Because there's so many people that are angry, that are just convinced that it's just some like feminist throwaway movie. And I've seen so many people talk about it like that.
I mean, it's definitely...
And that tells me that it's the more important one to watch because it's actually starting a conversation that needs to be had.
It's definitely not a... If you have really strong views on one side, then it's not a movie that you're gonna enjoy watching. If you're the issue, you're the issue, you know. But it might also be exaggerated in some aspects.
Yeah, I mean, every movie has its own bias.
But I think they're not wrong for it, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen so many instances of where there's like a portrayal of masculinity online that's making things harder on women all over the world, and certain people promoting certain mindsets that can become dangerous if they're left to fester. And that's why I think as of right now I'm more concerned about people watching Barbie and wanting them to go watch Barbie so that we can attempt to, at least within our own generation, confront what's happening and the messages that are being spread around the youth, versus Oppenheimer, where again we're a little bit more far removed from it, but
see, now I feel bad not giving Barbie a 4. So I'm gonna move Barbie up to a 4 out of 5 clapping
for
words.
the message.
But I'm gonna move Oppenheimer to a 4.3.
I think Oppenheimer is the better movie in the sense of the cinematography.
It's a better movie as far as movie goes.
As far as the movie goes. As far as the message, I'm all for Barbie. 100% more.
As far as what he can, as far as the impact that
Yeah.
he can have on society right now.
Barbie.
Because Oppenheimer has a good message as well, but it's not going to have an impact.
It's not going to have the most applicable messaging.
Yeah.
Versus Barbie, where it is covering present day, current happening issues.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to have an impact in
Yeah.
in the near future. In the present, it's already having an impact.
Oppenheimer's issues we're more far removed from. Barbie.
Well,
up close and
Oppenheimer
personal.
definitely shows why we shouldn't deal with what we have right now. Like the bombs that we have right now, just don't touch them. Just leave them there.
Leave them alone. Right.
But that might be the extent of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here one more week. We really appreciate you coming. I know it's a longer episode than usual. But, I mean, we touched on two of them and then compared them. So you can follow our TikTok at That Film Couple. You can find the same name on YouTube if you want to see this and you're not seeing it right now. If you're listening to it on Spotify or an Apple Podcast, feel free to leave us a 5-star review and a little comment. And you can also follow us on Instagram at NCAT the Podcast. You can find me at Sebas Alip on Instagram.
And you can find me at Kate Johnston at 622 on Instagram as well.
We'll see you next week, and we hope you really enjoyed this. And